What's up, everybody? Thralls Metal here once again. I'm Necrotic.
I'm Jammin John.
And we have yet another album review for you, and one that I most definitely wanted to go over.
Yeah.
Even if it's not purely metal, I don't care. This guy has been involved in one of my favorite bands since this band's inception, and by that, we're going over it.
I also actually don't give a crap if this isn't metal, because without this guy in particular, I don't even know if I would be the fan of really a lot of things that I am today. So regardless of what this is, you're at the mercy of us. You're either going to watch or you're not.
So, needless to say, because you probably read the title below, we are going over the latest offering from Jerry Cantrell, I Want Blood. This also comes out on the 18th of October on Double J Records or Music. I just wrote down Double J. I assume both of those J's stand for Jerry and probably Joe Barresi, who did the production on here.
I wrote down 777. I can't read.
Jerry has been doing solo material since his debut album, Boggy Depot, back in 1998. This is his fourth one overall, or, I mean, fifth, if you want to count the reissue of Degradation Trip, the 2-disc edition, which is honestly the way to listen to that. And, of course, most people know him for his work in Alice in Chains as probably the principal songwriter. He is like one of my favorite Jerrys ever. I mean, Tom and Jerry, Ben and Jerry, Jerry Reed. I'm sure there's other Jerrys I'm missing out. Maybe Jerry Garcia, but he was never a favorite of mine. Jerry Cantrell is kind of like top of the Jerrys for me.
Really, find me one person out there that hates Alice in Chains, and then berate them and tell them how incredibly wrong they are. Because I don't know if I've ever met anybody, at least personally and or in my friend circle, that was like, yeah, Alice in Chains, pfft.
Yeah, no, I've never met that person.
No.
And most of the time, I don't care. Like, if you don't like it, that's fine. You don't have to.
Right.
But I don't know. I feel like if someone said they hated Alice in Chains, I don't know if I would be able to respond to that other than, fuck you.
Right.
That'd be like my automated response. I don't quite get that. But anyway, now I've been a fan of Jerry's solo work for years, again, since Boggy Depot, and admittedly, I missed out on his last one, Brighton, in 2021, which apparently was a bit of a departure, even going by the name, like he wanted to, I guess, write some brighter, like more catchy tunes, because, I mean, Jerry's definitely known for catchy tunes,
Yeah.
but they're definitely very somber and downtrodden because, again, Alice in Chains. And this is kind of back to that more Alice in Chains mode. In fact, I would say a good chunk of these songs feel like they could have been like written around the same time as Black Gives Way to Blue. This kind of gets back to what Jerry just does well, like big, dreary, heavy, dark rockers. Still kind of borders on metal, but maybe not quite. Again, I don't care. He knows how to write his dreary hooks, his very woeful lead melodies, and this album really captures that. Now, generally, with, solo artists, or at least with an artist that is associated with a band and is, like, known as the primary songwriter, I like hearing that person kind of step outside of their normal stuff. Like, this is a chance to do some stuff that is a little bit more experimental. And Jerry has done that, but honestly, where he excels, and selfishly where I want him,
Right.
is in that Alice in Chains mode. And like right away, the first two tracks in here, Vilified and Off the Rails, just flat out Alice in Chains hooks. You have broken down, heavier riffs, Jerry's amazing vocals and vocal harmonies. There's lots of doubling on here, and I imagine live he probably has a bunch of people singing with him because that layered effect, I mean, that's kind of part of the Alice in Chains charm. But most of these songs are just, again, like heavy, brooding, dark, again, loaded with hooks and amazing production. Both Jerry and Joe Barresi did the production here. And the rest of the band here is rounded out by Robert Trujillo, Metallica, ex-Suicidal Tendencies, and one Gil Sharon, who actually played in Dillinger Escape Plan for a little while, which is interesting because Greg Puciato actually does like stuff live with Jerry Cantrell. So he's got a connection to that band, which is interesting.
Right.
But Gil has also been in bands like Pussifer and Team Sleep and Marilyn Manson as well. And honestly, I think he does his best to really kind of give it that Sean Kinney sort of sound.
Oh, he does. Really, the musical work across this album is pretty top-notch. Dude, Robert Trujillo's bass, especially in the song Echoes of Laughter or the last track, It Comes, are just super sexy. Echoes of Laughter may be, at least for me, the best song on this record, and all these songs are pretty goddamn good. It is sultry and sexy and bluesy, and just the groove that settles in, soulful bluesy verse, big chorus, There's big chorus in all of this, but that song in particular, just that does it for me.
Jerry might know how to write a hook or two or 18,000.
Right.
Even in those like softer moments, like Echoes of Laughter and It Comes, which are more like, I guess you could say like subdued as far as like the big heavy riffs, like that's mostly acoustic play.
Yeah.
There is that heaviness and darkness. Echoes of Laughter, I mean, it sounds like it kind of just rolled in from the dusty plains. Like there's that kind of like almost like Western guitar to it. But when it hits that chorus, it is such a tremendous, heartfelt hook. And that's something I've always loved about Jerry Cantrell is his lyrics, while they are definitely, you know, like loaded with cool prose and such, it is still very direct. Like you can kind of feel what he's feeling because he emotes it so well.
Yeah. He kind of knows where to grab you and what heartstrings to tug on, and just the way it's presented is just the most like relatable thing.
Yeah, he's pulling on your flannel and going, hey, remember me? You want to cry with me for a little bit? Like, yeah, I do.
If I thought about it, I would have brought a flannel with me.
I don't even know if I own any flannels. That's kind of sad.
I have one.
But this album definitely has its good, heavier cuts, and I like all things Alice in Chains. Like, honestly, like, sometimes when they're at their softest, they are at their best. Sometimes when they're at the heaviest, they're at their best. They're at their best all the time. I love their entire discography. But those heavy, broken down riffs on Off the Rails and that really cool, like, more metallic lead that kind of kicks it off, it almost sounds like someone slowed down a little bit of, like, Wasted Years. It's almost like that. It's almost kind of a more metallic, heavy song. Throw Me a Line might have one of the catchiest riffs in the entire album. That thing repeats, and it's one of the few that he, like, really does, like, a flat-out just, like, riff harmony. A lot of the time, you know, the riffs are accompanied by his dreary lead melodies, which are amazing. Like, his wah effect on there sounds dirty and squawky. It's, again, like, all the things that I love about Alice in Chains, except it's just Jerry doing it. But Throw Me a Line, that has like kind of a classic heavy metal harmony to it, albeit, you know, kind of slowed down to like more of a mid-tempo groove. It kind of sounds a bit like Thin Lizzy. But the groove of that song, just the vibe of it, I mean, it's a good flat-out rocker. It has inescapable hooks. But when you want to get down to that heavier, darker, more sinister sound, at least in terms of the riffs, Let It Lie. Jerry gets a wicked case of the bends on there. I think he survived, but oh my God, the way that riff lurches at you. Again, that's one that kind of like just tugs on your Alice in Chains shirt and like, come here, you still love me.
And it's so dirty. Like, both Throw Me a Line and Let It Lie, both those riffs are just particularly like dirty in a bluesy way. But Let It Lie, dude, when that bend hits and you're just like, man. And it doesn't let up. The whole song has the incorporation of that riff and like the drum patterns. There's this really cool like ghost noted drag going on. But really all of that in conjunction with one another. It's just dirty and groovy as shit. And then the bridge of that song is really atmospheric and spacey. Reminds me a little bit of Tool.
It did.
I don't know.
And something about the riff, like, and especially the tone, like it kind of had a little bit of that Adam Jones sort of sound to it. And again, it's Joe Barresi. He's definitely worked with Tool.
And all the vocal harmonies in that bridge, they're coming at you from all angles, and it's just a really like big, entertaining, engaging part.
The whole vibe of the album, again, it captures that sort of like Alice in Chains darkness, but there's that warmth to it. You know, it feels kind of inviting, like you're kind of invited in to kind of talk about your problems, or at least Jerry's problems, or just everything that he's feeling at the moment. And there's like an intimacy there, especially when they isolate his vocals, like it's just him and an acoustic guitar for a second before the song builds up. You get a little bit of that, you know, isolation on Held Your Tongue, which is more about like the isolated vocals, but it's more of like an up-tempo kind of just like straightforward rocker.
It's a bit looser. You get out of songs like Echoes of Laughter, Throw Me a Line, and Let It Lie, and these are all like dark and again bluesy and just packed full of groove. And then you get into Held Your Tongue, and just overall it's upbeat in the sense that it's just more loose. Like it's more vocally driven, like they're not held to a tight groove. No one's got a walking bass line, you know, it's just like a straightforward song.
You get some more like warm, almost kind of like desert rock riffs in there, and honestly it has one of my favorite vocal parts in it, the pre-chorus. Which shows up only on like the last two choruses, I think. It's almost kind of like Blue Oyster Cult. Like you have this more like ascending kind of, brighter melody, or at least vocally. There's just something about it that kind of, reminded me of like Don't Fear the Reaper a little bit. And I mean, in terms of like great vocal harmonies, that's kind of a big one.
And if you think this record is without a rainy day dirge or a gloomy song, then you're wrong.
Probably never listened to Jerry Cantrell before.
Well, right, that too. But the song It Comes opens up again, very ominous, very spacey. Like, it just kind of has like an emotionally haunting vibe to it. He's clearly been bearing his soul on this entire record. This is the rug that really ties the room together, because the record starts off really strong. Vilified is an awesome song. And then it, just to close with something this emotional and this like gigantic overall as a presentation, just, again, it's the rug that ties the room together.
The verses on that song in particular sound kind of like Frogs off of the self-titled album. It's a very haunting, dark, foreboding song. And how it builds into this very dark, very emotional chorus, I think is just absolutely fantastic. Now, as far as negatives on here, I mean, all right, well, I suppose like one thing I could say, like, all right, if you were looking for Jerry to step outside of the Alice in Chains mold and do something, a little bit more experimental, you don't get much of that at all in here. If you're looking for Alice in Chains stuff, it is 100% on here. There are a couple of songs that do kind of step outside of that just a little bit. Afterglow and the title track. Afterglow is kind of like just like any like 90s rock, rainy day, more like upbeat song. It's dreary, it's melancholic, but it doesn't quite have like the total Alice in Chains vibe to it. Like, this actually kind of sounds like he was doing something that was like completely his own and wanted to kind of get outside of that box a little bit. And overall, I like it. It's just, again, it follows some songs that are particularly strong.
Yeah, it's just got a different vibe to it. Like, it's not bad, but it sounds, I don't know, brighter, I guess. To me, it sounds like a more almost radio-friendly song. If he was going to put out something that had nothing to do with Alice in Chains, that he wanted to sound different from the rest of the record, that would have been it, in my opinion. And I'm not saying he's trying to release radio-friendly songs, but it's just got a different vibe.
But let's be honest, if this was released in like 1992 or 93, all of these songs would probably be on the radio.
Yeah.
The title track, I thought was kind of cool initially. Like, I really like the fact that it has a more like desert rock vibe. The main riff that kind of carries the song in terms of the verses sounds very much like, early Queens of the Stone Age, Caius, Fu Manchu. In fact, when he does the whole refrain of the title, you could have told me that was like Scott Hill stepping in there.
Yeah, it's not a bad song. Like, I don't want to knock it, but again, it just has a completely different vibe than the first two songs had. Because the first two songs on this record completely set me up for the rest of the record. I was like, if this is what it sounds like, I'm 100% in, because, I'm a giant Alice in Chains fan. And these two songs, they're different, and it's not the same vibe as the rest of the record.
My main issue with the title track, I love the verses. I think he does the stoner rock thing really well there. Like, it's kind of got that, like, driving in the desert sort of vibe. It's when it hits the chorus, because, like, that sort of, like, desert rock vibe, like, it's more energetic. It's not necessarily, like, depressive. And then you get to the chorus, and it kind of has, again, that more Alice in Chains depressive vibe. I don't want to say he jerry-rigged the chorus, but he kind of did. Like, I feel like he kind of tried to squeeze in, like, a very Jerry chorus on there, and it didn't necessarily fit the vibe of the song. Held Your Tongue is, like, a better example of, like, a more up-tempo song where it kind of sounds uniformly Jerry, and he squeezes in some stuff that is a little bit outside of the box, and it actually works.
Typically, he's the man in the box.
And maybe the other complaint I have, and it's, again, not a deal breaker, and actually none of these are really deal breakers on here, but It Comes, when it gets down to the bridge and picks up the pace, I kind of wish it stayed slow and brooding.
Yeah.
It's a nice bridge. I mean, it just kind of plays the riff faster. It just picks up the pace. You get a little bit more heft to the guitars. Great solo. All the solos on here are amazing. Jerry plays with such feel, like they're almost, again, like kind of complimenting the lyrics in a way. But I kind of wish that part stayed slow and brooding along with the rest of the song, because it does inevitably slow back down and get back to that absolutely amazing chorus.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Outside of that, though, like, those are honestly kind of minor complaints. Like, this, it kind of has that vibe that I was absolutely looking for. And I think Jerry, once again, wrote one hell of an album that didn't have the Alice in Chains banner across the top of it. So I'm going to go ahead and give this 4 stars. I love the songwriting. This is Jerry playing to his strengths, good hooks. It's got that bluesy, dreary vibe on most of them. You got a good mix of like heavier rockers on here and then more intimate, like acoustic, dirgy ballads. They're all really well done. Where he stepped outside of the Alice in Chains formula, I think he did pretty well. It just, like when you set it up for that, that's kind of what I was expecting.
Yeah.
Jerry's just a hell of a songwriter and a hell of a singer too. Like his voice still brings me back to an era of, again, flannel Birkenstocks, torn up jeans, and, talking about how much we love Soundgarden and, Stone Temple Pilots. And maybe for the people that actually do like Pearl Jam, they've probably talked about how much they like Pearl Jam. This album is just kind of loaded with everything that I kind of wanted. Like, you could argue maybe it's a little bit safe, but I don't care. Like, this is kind of a comfort zone for me, too.
Yep.
If you're a big fan of Alice in Chains, fucking duh. But also, I mean, if you just like 90s heavy rock and you like it a little bit more on the dark side, just check this out. Check out Jerry's other stuff. I strongly recommend Degradation Trip, especially the 2-disc edition. Like, that's the one to go for.
Yep.
But yeah, check this one out. Solid work, Jerry.
I mean, it's a solid 4 for me, too. I don't have a whole lot to say to follow that up. This record brought back a whole hell of a lot of nostalgia. These songs are just very well written. Even the couple tracks I didn't like, while they, again, did step outside of the box a little bit, like, it's still very Jerry. That run of songs, Echoes of Laughter, Throw Me a Line, and Let It Lie, you could have killed me after that. It was just a perfect listen. There's so much about this that is so awesome. And when I say nostalgia, it's not that it necessarily reminds me of how I felt back in the day, although that's still very clear as well. It reminds me that I still love this sound, and I still love Jerry Cantrell, and I still love, the Alice in Chains sound. Being such a big fan of that band over the years, there's not a single Alice in Chains track that I think I would turn off. I think what would happen more is I'd be like, I want to jam this song. Well, now I got to jam this. Well, now I got to jam this, and now I got to play the whole discography. That's the kind of nostalgia that it brought back.
You called in work just to listen to Alice in Chains.
Right. What are you doing? Are you sick? No, I'm listening to Alice in Chains. It kind of feels like home. It kind of feels like I've heard all these songs before, but I haven't. And like it just, I don't know. It's amazing. I loved every minute of it. If you're a fan, again, of Alice in Chains, duh. Check this out. And really, if you're a fan of, like the 90s alternative era, like it's just going to bring back a lot to you. And I recommend checking it out. It's a great listen.
So, if you enjoyed this review, give it a thumbs up. And if you are new to the channel, subscribe, because we do stuff like this all the time. We also have memberships now. If you would like to partake in that, there is a join button down below. And I think I set up videos for like a link to pop up in the video description.
Ooh.
So, yeah, it's there as well. It's only 99 cents, and the only perk we are offering is a members-only live stream, which we will eventually do probably sometime in November, because October is just a blitz of releases.
Ugh.
And the other perk, I guess you could say, is a Booger Troll. Again, do with that information what you will, but it's there, probably floating directly above us, dripping, snot. But this is yet another way to support the channel if you would like. StreamYard is raising their prices, so this is kind of helping us pay for that. And we appreciate everyone that has signed up so far. It's amazing seeing like so many people kind of help us out.
Yeah.
We absolutely appreciate the hell out of you. And don't feel pressure to join. It's there if you would like. And like I said, we made sure it was cheap so everyone could afford it. We also still have our store, t-shirts, hats, all that stuff's still there. Thrallsmetal.com, link down below with, again, a bonus link for the whole membership thing. Either way, check it out.
Which brings us to the point of thank you. We couldn't do this without you guys. We are really at constant work here at Thralls of Metal, and one of the reasons that we continue to do album reviews, discography rankings, discussion forums, Nick's never-ending collection updates, a multitude of things is all because of you guys. We appreciate all of you. Regardless of whether or not you join our silly Booger Troll membership, we just appreciate the fact that you guys tune in and watch us and interact, and it means the world to us. I don't foresee myself really doing much else with my life at this point other than doing Thralls of Metal along with this guy, so, that's where we're at. Thank you.
In a way, that sounds sad and pathetic, but it's not.
Right.
Right?
No.
Okay,
No.
yeah, all right, cool.
No, not at all.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you guys once again. We appreciate everything you guys do for us. And again, tons of content coming your way. So one more big thank you because you guys have earned it. And we will catch you later.